Now let's create our navigation buttons. Now there's many resources out there on the web that you can go to that will help you create buttons. But we're going to use Moose right here. There's references to other places. Okay, let's go to CSS. Let's go to CSS Menu Wizard. And this is what you get. You get this tool. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is put a class on our buttons. In order for this to work in the CSS, you have to have a class. So let's just call this menu. There shouldn't be any spaces or special characters. Now, because we want it to be a vertical menu, we click menu, and this top row will be the parent buttons. So we'll call this home, and we'll call this about, and we'll call this mission, and we'll call this contact. Okay, we'll just have those 4 buttons. Under about or under mission, we'll call it philosophy. We'll do a philosophy, and we'll do I don't know, a mission statement. Oops. Mission statement. Under about, we'll do history. And we'll do, I don't know, schedule. Doesn't make sense. Okay, so here are our buttons, our parent buttons: home, about, mission, contact. Under about, we'll have 2 pages, history and schedule. Under mission, we'll have philosophy and mission statement. Now we get to pick the color of our buttons. This is the background color of the button in its rest state. Let's make it a Specs Howard green. And it looks like maybe a white text would look good on that. When you mouse over, it should maybe go a little bit darker. And we'll put white text there as well. Okay, so, but the flyouts, let's make some different colors for the flyouts. Let's make them a little bit dark, and maybe they'll go a little bit lighter when you mouse over. Okay, almost the opposite of what we got going on here, almost. And so the color of the buttons, of the text on the buttons, should probably be white and white. And that's all you have to do. Put the class, don't forget the class, it won't work without the class. Make sure it's vertical or it will be all messed up. Put your parents and your children, pick the colors. This is the background of the button when people first get to the site. This is what happens when they mouse over the buttons. Here's the text on the rest state and on the hover state. And for the flyouts, background, background, text, text. Then you get code. Okay, and that's kind of like what it's going to look like, the colors. And of course there's not going to be a gap there. Let's see, so this part, notice the class that we put in there, menu, has to do with the div structure and the class. So let's copy this, Command C. Let's go our Dreamweaver, and because it's going to be our navigation, we'll just go ahead and put it in the nav div. There we go. So there it is, inside the nav div. This is where the nav opens, this is where the nav ends, but that's not all. We have to go back to Moose and grab the code that is going to make that button work. Let's copy that, and we're going to paste that at the very bottom in the style sheet. Okay, notice that it is divided up. This code that you just pasted into CSS, that's where you paste it, style CSS. There's styles that make it work, that is the mouse overs and the flyouts and this and that and the other. And then there's a second part that has to do with styling it. So you can see some of them are labeled, Here's the background color and the text of the parent button color, blah blah blah. So each one is labeled. We're going to go down and resize the buttons, but let's save all. Go to our Safari, refresh, and let's take a look. So there we have our buttons. Okay. Doesn't look like our mouse overs are turning colors. Let's see why. Okay, here's the hover. Looks like it should be just fine. Now, we'll just make it really bright green just so that we can see what the problem is here. Okay. Let's see. So there's a style. Okay, let's save and take a look. For some reason it's not gonna. Oh well, it doesn't matter because it'll work for you. Okay, so there we have our buttons. And they're in place. They look kind of small, so let's add a little bit of padding. We'll go down to resize buttons and let's add some padding to the top and the bottom. Let's save and take a look. There, we add a little bit more padding. Working very good. Okay, so now we have our buttons. Let us add some content. Should we add content? Yeah, let's add some content here. You also can go to Moose Loose and get some dummy text. If you go under miscellaneous and go down to dummy text, you can put your name and you can put the subject of the page. Home. This is the home. Well, let's just call it home. Okay, and all this does is it writes some dummy text for you so you don't just put a bunch of gibberish. Copy that. And let's go to our section in the source code. Here's the section. Let's save it. Let's take a look in Safari. And there we have our content. Now there seems to be a lack of padding. Our text goes right up against the next div. And we don't want to do that. So let's go and let's add some padding. Now there's all kinds of ways you can do that. You can go to the CSS designer. But the way I find it to be easier and familiar, if we want to add something to our section, just put the cursor at the very end, not inside, at the very end. Make sure this button down here is on CSS and you can edit the rule. So we want to go to padding. Of course, you know that's in the box. And we're going to add padding to the right. Let's add 10 pixels, and to the left 10 pixels. Now if we're adding padding to left and right, we have to take away 20 pixels from the overall width. So if we go back up here and we hit 40, taking off 20, hit OK, do a file, save all, and let's take a look how that affected the padding. Okay, so now we have some pretty nice padding here. Okay, the next step will be turning our beautiful page into a template.